Did you know that many people and organizations tend to struggle to keep track of their net worth? So now imagine having a tool that makes it simple and efficient. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Stephen Tawe, and today's tutorial will tackle the common financial challenge, which is tracking and calculating your net worth, whether you're an individual or an organization. Before diving into building the application, let's first of all have a quick understanding of what net worth is, its importance, and why is it necessary for us to keep track of it. In a nutshell, net worth is calculated as total assets minus liabilities, which in the end will indicate the overall financial standing of an individual or an organization. It is important for us to keep track of net worth because monitoring of the net worth will provide us with insights into our financial health, whereby we can actually make proper plans for our growth in the near future. And the insights into spending habits, regular tracking of your worth reveals the spending patterns, facilitating better budgeting decisions. So if you know that, okay, I've got more liabilities as compared to total assets, it is easier for you to budget accordingly. Because if you're just spending your money from your checking account, from your savings account, and then you're just spending it anyhow without calculating, without having to keep track of that, of the funds, how they're moving, if maybe you're investing them against an asset or liability, it is easy for you to actually, poorly manage your funds. So by tracking every liability and asset, it will make it easy for you to also have some insights in your spending habits. And fourthly, it's just a matter of setting up financial goals. Having an understanding of your net worth will also aid you in establishing, proper and realistic financial goals, paving way for informed planning and so on and so forth. And lastly, the motivation from financial discipline, because tracking progress will encourage individuals or organization to maintain financial discipline. I think that is also catered to the habit of spending. That discipline will only come if you actually see the where the funds are going, whether they're going against an asset or liabilities. So the key features of our tracker will just have visual representation of the forms, and it will also give us the chart where it will display the assets, liabilities graphically with proper insights. And we're also going to have user input forms where user can go in there and then manage the information accordingly. We'll also have summary of dashboards which will summarize the whole net worth, just as a comparison between the assets and liabilities that will be entered into the system. So lastly, our solution is going to have the tables, these five tables over here. So in the middle, you see that we have got the asset category. So the asset category is where you define to say, okay, this is either the category type is either a liability or this is an asset. All right, for example, if you've bought shares, obviously that is not a liability, that is an asset. If you've bought a vehicle, that is actually a liability. So you need to keep track of all those categories in here. And those categories have got a relationship with the asset table and the liability table, meaning to say one category can have multiple liabilities and the same as multiple assets. So the financial summary is there as a chart table of the liability and the assets table, because we'll just have now to calculate the differences between what is coming in as liabilities and what is coming in as assets. So therefore, if we were to build a report, a dashboard on top of this particular scenario here, it is just going to interface with a summary table, or we'll be able to calculate accordingly to say the total worth of assets is so much, and the total worth of liability is so much. Therefore, our total net worth, whether individual or organization, is so much. So that's what we're going to build today. And without further ado, let's actually dive into building this solution. Let's go ahead and create our system tables. So we're going to use Dataverse for storage. So in our solution, I'll first of all create a parent table, which is the asset category table. And the primary column here, we'll just give it category name and also activate the create form. Set that. For our columns, let's add the category description, which can be multi-line text, and as well as the category type. The category type will be a choice column, which will the inputter has to indicate whether it's a liability or it's an asset. And this should be business required or mandatory. Right? Let's edit the system view. So we'll edit the active asset categories. So we'll have the category name, the description, and as well as the category. I think the category should be column. And here, save and publish. Now let's go ahead and edit the forms for our asset category table. So edit the information, which is the main form. On our general tab, we have got the category name. Let's add in the category type plus the description. We don't need to show the owner field, so I can just select it and hide it. When you're done, save and publish. So our categories table has been created. Let's go ahead and now create the asset and the liabilities table. So whilst we're still in the same solution, I'll just click on tables. And when I'm here, I'll click new table with advanced properties. And this one, I'll give it a name of asset. And the primary column should be the asset name. And on here as well, I can just enable the create setup. Whilst that is loading, I can also just quickly create the liabilities table. Okay. So now in our asset table, let's go to the forms and edit the main form. Let's add custom columns. So we already have the asset name. Let's add in the asset description. And the description should be multi-line text as well. And apart from description, let's also add the lookup column, which is the category. So the category is a lookup, and it's looking up from the asset set category. This one should be mandatory. Set that. And we also need to add the total value of assets. So that field is a currency field. So I'll go here, add new column, new table column. We create on the form, same as description. New table column, and this one is asset value, and this one should be set to currency. So currency by default is a decimal, so you can set here because it uses currency precision. You can also just use this pressing decimal precision, so you can also set it up depending on your scenario. But this one by default is two decimal places. So asset value is a currency field. Okay. So let's just specify the date at which we purchased our asset. And this should just be date only. All right, so we have got our asset name, description, category, and we have the value, and we have got the which is dates. All right, let's hide the owner field and save and publish. Right. Now that is done, let's go ahead and edit the liabilities table. Now that our assets table and liabilities table have been created, let's finalize by adding the last table, which is the summary table. Now the financial summary table, we'll give it a name. The primary column should be summary ID. Save the table. And because this table is related to the liabilities and the asset table, let's first of all create the relationships. So the relationship that we're going to add is when you go to relationship, go on top here, new relationship. It should be a one-to-many relationship, meaning to say one financial summary can be related to multiple assets. Okay. And we are going to also add another relationship which is also interfacing with the liabilities table. So to add it, you just have to follow the same way we've added the relationship with the assets table. So new relationship, one-to-many relationship. And this one is related to the liabilities, the one-to-many relationship. Okay, done. So now let's go ahead and edit our form. So go under relationship here, just click on the drop down and click on forms. And on here, go edit the main form. And we're going to add a calculated column. This column would be total asset value of type currency. And on the behavior, we're going to set it as a row up column because we're taking data from our related table. So save and edit. It will save this record and then it will pop up another screen. So on the total asset value, how do we only calculate the summations of only the assets, the value of the assets? So on here, we have to specify the related entity. The related entity is our assets table. So as you can see here, all the relationships that this table has, they will pop up here. So if say assets, I'll select yes. And then we can also add filters. So the filter, you can specify to say maybe if the asset name is equal to this, you can also add anything else depending on that particular front. But for ours, because we've already just selected, say only select the financial, the assets, sum up the assets. What are exactly are we aggregating? We want to sum up the asset value. Select that. There, our column is complete. So now our total assets value has been added here. We can also add another column, and this one total real liability, and same rules apply. This one will also be a currency field. The behavior should also be a row up field. Save and edit. And the related entity is not asset. This one is the liability. Save that. And on the aggregation, we want to sum up the liability amount. Save that as well. Save and close. So now we can just add the total asset value to our form here. We can also add the total liability. On the summary ID, you see that here it's mandatory. Plus, we don't necessarily need to have anything in there. So what you can have here, what we can have is, first of all, let's edit it. So select it, edit. Let's make sure that it's not mandatory. It's just optional. And on the data type, it shouldn't be single line text. It should just be an auto number. You can say summary ID. So summary to be summary, and then and so on and so forth. And one other thing we can do is we don't necessarily need to have it on our form here. We can just drag it to the top so that our form only has the total asset value and total liability. And owner, we don't need to have it, so we can just hide it for now. How do we calculate the difference between the total asset value plus the total liability to gauge our net worth? So for that, we'll add another column, and this one will give it a name of total net worth. Should still be the same data type as the other two columns, each of currency. The behavior is not simple; it's a calculated. So same rules apply. We'll save it, and then it'll pop up another window. So on this window here, because this is a calculated column, we'll add a condition. The condition is, how do we calculate the total net worth? So first of all, we just select to say if the total entity, if the status equals active, just maximize here equals active. Select that. That's our condition. What should be the action? The action should be subtract the total asset value minus total liability. All right. This will give us our total net worth. Save and close. Okay. After we've saved and published, and let's just go back here and then edit the view and edit our financial summaries view. And on here, what we need to show is we just want to show the total asset value and the total liability. And we also want to show our total net worth. And we can just remove the created one column. Now we have added our tables. The reason why we haven't added the users table is because we're developing in Dataverse. Dataverse already handles the relationship between each and every user against the records that they're creating. That's why each and every table that we've created, if you are to check on the columns, you see that there are system columns that are called created by. So the created by column is related to the users table. So we don't have to recreate the users table. It's already in there. So now let's go ahead and create the model-driven application. To create the application, whilst we're still in the solution, let's go to all and new model-driven app. In my application, I'll first of all add a page, which is we'll add the assets and liabilities. And this group, we can just give it a name of assets and liabilities. And we can also introduce a new section. This one is a new group, and it has to be at the top. And this one will give it a name of note. And on here, after you've clicked on the ellipsis, you can just click on there and then you click on new page to add something within that group. So we'll add a database table, and the database table that we're going to add is the summary, financial summary. Okay. So all of our tables are in here. So from here, what we can now do is we can save and publish. And let's go ahead and play the app. And as you can see here on our navigation, we have got the network summaries here. We have got the assets, we have got the asset categories, we have got the liabilities, and so on and so on. So I'll add in a sample data, and then we'll proceed to have a hands-on test of the whole application. I've gone ahead and added sample data. So under assets and liabilities, we have got the asset category. Here you can enter as many categories as you have, depending on your scenario. Just added a few here in terms of investments, cash, credit cards, mortgage, and so on and so forth. When you're managing assets, you can enter the asset name, the description of the asset, the category which you're selecting from the asset category, the total value, and the purchase date. Same applies for liabilities. It's just that for liabilities, you're determining the liability total or liability cost. So now, how do you go ahead and sum up all these totals in terms of how can I know that my total asset value is so much? So under financial summaries, you can enter as many summaries as you want. Reason being, you can have a scenario where you're managing multiple companies. So if you have, let's say, three companies, and then you can enter that to say, okay, this summary is for company A. This summary is for company B. You need to say when you're entering assets for company A, you'll just be tagging those assets against that particular financial summary. So same applies here. As you can see for the example, I've just added mine as Stephen Towers' net worth. And if I'm to open that record, I've got the total asset value for everything that I currently have. I also have the total liability. And the total net worth is the subtraction of the total value, total asset value, subtracting by the total liability. And as you can see here, because I'm in the positive, which means that my net worth is actually in the green. We can actually customize to add few colors and pie charts and so on and so forth. But for the general concept in terms of how you can actually achieve that. These are just row up columns, and this is a creative column. When you want to see all the assets that you have, I've added here two different tabs, which is the assets and the liabilities. You can just click on assets, and then on here, you have got all the assets that are associated with Stephen Tower's network. So you'll be able to see, okay, this is what Steve Tower has, and so on and so forth. Let's say Steve Tower has actually sold this vehicle. All right, you can actually take this out of the asset list, and then you'll be able to, you have a total value as of current value as of now. If I go to general, you note that this is $701,000. So let's go to asset and let's just try. Let me unselect this. First of all, let me unselect this. Let me just try to add a new asset. Our quick create form here will pop up. I can enter this as test. The test entry, the description is just test entry. And this is just personal property. The asset value is $12,000, and the purchase date was today. Save and close. If I go back to the general tab here and just click on the calculator icon here next to the total asset value, click to calculate, you see that now the value has moved from 701 to 713,000. And here, if I'm now to save this entire record, you see that the total network as well has reflected as such. So that's how you play around with row up columns, calculated columns, to make sure that everything is being handled in one spot. And from here, you can actually picture it as a folder to say Stephen Towers network. what are Stephen Towers liabilities? All the liabilities are still in the same folder for Stephen Towers net worth. I see that here I've taken a loan for my holiday, and I've taken loan for my renovation activities, my medical bills. Everything else is all here, and we're able to track it end to end. So this will be so beneficial for an individual, and will also be so beneficial to an organization, just to make sure that you're keeping track of everything that you currently have, whether it's an asset or liability. So that's the concept that I had in mind as I was recording this tutorial. And feel free to comment in terms of any other suggestions on how we can enhance it further to add more value. But this is just the foundation of it to say, then now we can build on top of that depending on our different scenarios. So thank you so much for watching the video, and I wish you a very good day.